Hello, Davis. I'm Tyler Shaffo. This is In the Studio. Today we're talking about homelessness in our community and how we interact with those people that are less fortunate than us and maybe live very different lives from us. I'm sitting here with, remind me of...
Mary Lou
Rossetto. I asked about 3 times right before we went on and it just left me. Who works with Grace in Action, a nonprofit group here in Davis that works with the homeless community in a number of different capacities. And I want to talk about all those different things. But I just kind of, this has been on my mind a lot recently. I live on Olive Drive, and I walk downtown pretty regularly, maybe every other day. And there's always a few guys that kind of hang out around there, and sometimes they ask me for money, sometimes they don't. And I usually try to, if they say hi, I say hi back. But it does bother me. Maybe I should be helping these people more. But then I also think, what could I do that wouldn't be counterproductive or could actually help them in a meaningful way? I'm sure that's something that has crossed your mind a lot and something that you think about. And I was hoping we could talk about that, basically.
Yeah.
How an individual can work with that community.
Can make a difference.
Can make a difference, exactly.
Life. Well, I think one of the things that is difficult is when you're just passing by somebody and there's a sign or somebody's asking for change and you don't really know who that person is and what their real needs are and what their background is. One of the things about Grace in Action is that we invite people to come into community with us. We have lunch on Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 different churches, and I do outreach. So our goal is to get to know people and to hear their stories, to be able to walk alongside them through whatever difficulties they're having, and just to be able to have conversations and a place to rest and just interaction with other folks in the community, because a lot of the folks who've been here and are homeless have been here for some time, and sometimes they get stuck in that system of homelessness, and we're somebody that they can call on. We're their friends. And so not every person who's homeless comes to Grace in Action. There have been increasing numbers of people traveling through Davis who aren't accessing the services that are available, but Grace in Action is one piece of a number of pieces in a puzzle. So we provide some things, other groups have other
There's
roles.
Other nonprofit groups.
Yes.
There's government services. And is part of what you do maybe helping connect that puzzle a little bit for people who may need those things?
We try to get, for instance, when somebody first comes to town, and I do outreach on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, and I will go out into the community and talk to people who I know are homeless, people who might be kind of looking like they're new to town, and I offer them some of the things that I carry in this plastic bag, which basically
some of the things you brought here.
Yeah.
You kind of brought what looked to me like an emergency kit.
An emergency kit, right. And so we have a group that of women here in Davis that have provided us with a number of these bags. And we put information in them about what services are available in town. And so when I come and meet somebody, I say, is there anything in this bag that you could use? Often, people might say no, or they might just take the water or the socks or whatever. Sometimes they'll take the whole bag. Now, the people who've been here a while usually have a pretty good sense of where the services are and how to access them. And truly, once somebody comes to town, they get to know other people. There really is a connection where people help each other.
So there's a community.
There is a community. There's a strong community, and one of the things that I really hope to do just speaking to you is to share about some of the stories of people who, have struggled and who really are not unlike you and I. So,
Right.
it's really I get more out of what I do than I give. Really, truly, I wasn't doing this my entire life. I was a teacher prior to this, so I was
Still a big area of public service.
helping kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so I've lived in Davis for a really long time, and I've seen
How
this
long have you
need.
lived in Davis?
I came in 1976. So,
It's a little
yeah, yeah. And went to school here and then just stayed. But I've seen the problem of people being without homes becoming a bigger issue. And the services that used to be available, a lot of them are not available now. So, for instance, we used to have a detox center in Yolo County. So right now it's been closed. We don't have any detox center. So if a person, let's say, is dealing with homelessness and has alcoholism as an issue, being able to get them to a place to have detox so that they can go into a facility, we really don't have that. So there are some real gaps in services that we,
So there's
as a
there's
community,
really
need
no place to go if you're
No place to
trying
go.
to.
Yeah.
So you end up with people trying to rehab themselves.
Right.
I assume.
Right,
Or
which is a
just-
very dangerous thing to do.
Right.
And so, we end up having people who say, I'd really like to get help, I'd really like to get into a rehab center. And one of the requirements is that you have to have had sobriety for a number of days. Well, for a person who's, drinking heavily, that can be a really serious thing. And, you can't go to a hospital just for detox. So it's a problem. Hopefully, I've been hearing that CommuniCare is working on getting a detox center going, so that's a good thing. But
So there's maybe movement in that direction,
yes, yes,
but I'm sure every movement needs support,
right,
and
right.
so
Well, and I think that if people think, why doesn't somebody go and get help? But they don't realize that, not only is it not available in Davis, it's not even available in Yolo County.
right.
That's a different thing, and not everybody has the same problems. So,
Oh.
may have some issues of having lost a job. Maybe you've got mental illness issues, or with addiction. But there are some people who just have lost their job and haven't been able to get another one. And once you lose your home and you have no job, it is very hard to start working again and keep a job. So
I get the sense that some of the services you all offer are sort of in that vein of showers and maybe there was something about
Yeah.
like interview.
yeah, Davis
stuff,
Community
things like
Meals
that.
is another agency that in town that does provide some of those things. They have a resource center. Now we are only at 2 different churches 2 days a week. So we don't have the shower facilities. Davis
Okay.
Community Meals
Right.
does. But we do have somebody come and give haircuts.
Yeah.
Stake recently, short-term emergency aid committee gave up the clothing closet. So right now there's nowhere for people to go and get clothing. So people donate to Grace in Action, and then, we don't really have a place to store it, but we're doing the best we can to try to, get those things to people who need them. When somebody says, oh, I have a job interview, can you help me out, getting some clothing, we'll help with that. We do have people who are getting out of homelessness, and being there at that time is so exciting.
It must be so like uplifting to be
Yeah.
a part of somebody overcoming that.
Right. Well, and sometimes it takes a very long time. So
Sure.
I think having the patience to walk alongside someone who's hurting, and just let them know that you're there no matter what, and when they actually have the desire and the ability to get back into, either getting a place to live or getting some work, we get to celebrate with them. So, we have people who may start off, doing kind of a low-level job, but then kind of get back into the work world, and then, are able to move up.
Let me ask you, are there any particular stories you can share with us
Yeah.
about people that you've seen start in one place and end in a very different place?
Well, and I can't attribute all the success to just Grace in Action. So
Obviously
I
not.
obviously
There's a lot of
would like
there's a lot of
Different-
self willpower
sure
that
a lot
goes
of different
into
things that happen.
and again, like you talked about the puzzle. I'm sure there are a lot of different programs
Yes.
that all work together and can help someone.
Well, just without naming names, we have
Obviously not.
We have a fellow who's come for very many years to Grace in Action for lunches, and has come in to talk to the director before me, was able to kind of get support, and he had an arrest. And once you have a felony on your record, getting back into an apartment and getting a job is really, really difficult. And even if you've paid your dues by serving your time, once you're out, you are gonna really have a hard time unless somebody's giving you a hand.
Right.
So
There's a trust you have to earn back from society.
right, and
it
who's
takes-
going to give you that chance?
Yeah.
Especially in a tight job market where the economy is not good.
Right.
And where in a place like Davis, housing is really hard to get
Yeah, there are
sometimes.
PhDs I know that are
Right.
having a hard time getting a job.
Right. So anyway, this fellow has now gotten a job. He has an apartment. He is working full time, and now he's in a recovery program where he's helping other people kind of go through that same process that he went through of overcoming some of the issues that he had. So that's the kind of thing that we like to see, is that somebody goes beyond getting help from us, but to give back to the community that they come from. So we have people who've gotten work and then gotten that place. That's really tough.
Yeah.
You have to have enough money to pay a first month or last month, the security deposit.
Right.
That's a lot of money,
Right, it
and
is.
sometimes Grace in Action can help in those areas. So, but there are different groups doing different things. We are a Christian group. We work with churches here in town and try to encourage them to participate in helping people. So we have about 8 churches actively involved right now. Our volunteers come from all the different churches. So one of the nice things is that working together, with a common goal, we have a community as well. So that's really been exciting to work with
But you can
those people.
volunteer if you're not a part of the churches too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. And that's the thing, is that there are places in Davis where you can volunteer to, serve a meal, or you can, do something that will be helpful. But one thing that sets us a little bit apart from some of those is that the long-term relationships. Some of my volunteers have been there for 10 years.
Wow.
And so people who even pass through town, who've been through, being homeless and are now, in a different place in their life, they can come through and find us and, come see people that they knew. And
You're maybe a steady thing in a life that's very
Sometimes.
transitional for
Right.
a lot of
right,
people.
right.
So bringing it back to how the individual that's walking along the street, how they could help. One of the things they could do is get involved with Grace in Action.
Exactly, exactly.
And start to build those relationships with people that you may not fully understand, or you may not understand at all when you pass them on the street.
Right.
But over 10 years, you start to know a little bit more what their lives are like,
Right.
and the
Well, and it's not
individual
that
struggles.
people might necessarily be there for 10 years.
No.
My volunteers have been.
Yeah, that's what I
But,
mean.
yeah,
That's what I mean.
so,
You,
yeah.
as a volunteer, you would go in and it's not a I'm gonna walk by and, you know, relieve my guilt by giving you $1.
Well, and
it's
yeah.
that you have to go and build a relationship.
That's, it's very interesting because this just last week, I went to a meeting with some of the police department representatives and the city manager and several business people who are really concerned about the increased number of panhandlers that are downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was sharing was that many of those folks don't come to Grace in Action, aren't going to Davis Community Meals, that they're passing through town, and that it is, if people walk by and give them money, then they don't really have the motivation to want to do anything different. Now, it's up to each person as to what they do, but I think being able to offer something like, something that can help make them more comfortable or point them in the right direction is sometimes more helpful. And, there are folks with dogs have a harder time accessing services because, you've got a dog, you can't stay in an overnight shelter.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So
wow.
the rotating shelter that we have here, the interfaith rotating shelter in the winters, is a different group, another piece of the puzzle. But if you have a dog, you can't go in. So we have these issues where there's a gap.
Dogs.
Right.
Do they bring the dogs along for companionship?
They're family. They really are. Yeah. I actually, this last week, I was talking to a gal whose dog had been impounded. And getting the dog out of impound was going to be expensive. And so she was very worried that the dog was going to be put down. And she went to the shelter and talked to them, and she was able to work out an agreement with them that she would pay a little portion of the fees and then work off the rest of it. So it's like there was some compassion in that place. And just even being able to talk to her about that and the worries that she had. I mean, this was like her child, and she was really desperate for what she was going to do. And there are a lot of times when, somebody would like to go into the library to stay cool on a hot day like today, where it's over 100. And if they have a dog, they can't do that.
Yeah.
So,
or access computers to look for a job. Or look for services and things like that.
Yeah. Now, if they go to the shelter, the resource center at 1111 H Street, which is parallel to the railroad tracks, you can leave your dog outside and go in and use some of the computers in there. You can do that. But that's daytime and kind of limited hours. So, but like for instance, today I went and checked on some folks who were out, in their camp, and I hadn't heard from them for a while, and just wanting to check and see how they were doing. And one of the ladies came and said, my husband has a really bad back injury and he can't move and we need to get him to the hospital. And, it was one of those things where, you and I could call a friend who has a car.
Right.
Or we'd call the ambulance and
yeah.
we'd pay the bill.
Right.
But if you're homeless and you have an injury like that, who do you call? And so, I was able to help. That's just because, she trusted me, he trusted me. We had a relationship. I know them, they know me. And, that's what community does, cares for each other. So that's really our goal, is to just care for the individual and walk alongside them.
Well, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah,
and
it's a lot of fun. It really is.
Is it a lot of fun?
It really is.
You get to meet a lot of different kinds of people, I'm sure. And
it's not something I ever expected that I would really enjoy doing.
So you said you started you were a teacher.
I was a teacher, yes.
And what brought you to this?
Well, I was a leader at my church, and it really was what I say is a calling that I felt like, sometimes we walk past people. There are people in our society that we just, you know, like you said, that guilt. You know, you walk by somebody and you just say, what do I do? I feel helpless and hopeless, and I'm sure you do too, but I can't really do anything. And
Right.
I think just being able to say, each person can really make a difference, and that it doesn't take anybody special to do that. I'm not trained in a lot of things that might be most helpful, but I have a compassionate heart, and I care about people. What else do I need? You know, and really that's what I bring to the job, and that's the passion that I put into this work. I mean, there are very huge frustrations.
I'm sure.
You know, compassion only gets you so far. I'm kind of getting more into the realm of justice, and just seeing some of the injustices that occur.
Yeah.
And it's eye-opening, really. It has been a real education for me.
How long? So an education for the teacher. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I actually only started about 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
So, you know, this is a story that I've told a number of times, but, you know, I had been in this kind of discernment process of figuring out where it was that I would use what I have to help other people. And really got a very strong message that what's the bottom of the bottom job? Really, what is it that people don't ever want to do? And I saw this ad that said that they needed help cleaning at the shelter. I mean, at the Grace in Action had a house called Grace House. And so I thought, gulp, you know, I do not want to go and clean, you know, a homeless shelter. But I thought, you know, if I don't do it, maybe this is something that I just felt a draw. Like, this is something that you should be willing to do. If
Right.
you have to be willing to do the hard, dirty work.
Yeah.
If you want to lead people, you have to put your feet down on the ground.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
this is washing the feet.
right, exactly.
So
I
people
went
who are
there.
familiar with Christian metaphor,
Right.
and that's
Yeah, and I went there and I met the folks who were working there, and surprisingly, it was a very joyful place. It was a place where people were really welcomed. You know, kind of I say like the cheers without the beer. You know, everybody knows your name, and
That's great.
I really loved it. And so it wasn't, you know, I was cleaning toilets and doing things like that, and it wasn't long, and people were saying, you know, we see in you something that is, you know, meant to go into this in a deeper level. And so, you know, this really is sort of, I never anticipated being here, but it really is one of those things where you say, wow, it's been really interesting, exciting, and hopeful. I have hope that I can hold out for somebody who may not have hope for themselves. And that's a big thing.
Yeah,
When
that is a
somebody's-
big thing.
Yeah.
That really is. Now I'm sure there's somebody out there who's been inspired to do exactly what you did. They want to get involved. What are some specifics about how someone who's heard that you started cleaning toilets and now you're really helping people make big transitions in their lives? How can they do that?
Well, I would say, you know, really search your heart, number one, because, you know,
You have to know
a lot of people
that you
want
wanna
to do
that.
good, and yet sometimes that good can be harmful. And so that's one of the things that I think sometimes the quick fix is not always the best way.
Right.
So I would say, you know, get involved in one of the groups that's already started. You know, there's Davis Community Meals, there's Stake, there's Grace in Action, Crisis Nursery, all these different groups that are helping people who are in need in this town. Get involved in one of them, one of the ones that really pulls at your heart. And then, you know, try to see if that's what you're feeling led to do. And truly, like I'm saying, justice is now becoming more of an issue for me, because I never had an idea of how difficult it is to be homeless and what barriers are in someone's way, and how difficult it is to get out of it. It's so hard. And if anybody ever does, I'm just like amazed.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really, really hard. And so I think it's a new avenue for me to kind of be looking, and I would say that other people ought to try it, see where it leads you. And you know, if volunteering isn't your thing, but you feel like you know, I'd really like to give $1, give the dollar to an agency that is helping. You know, that goes directly to helping somebody, and I don't think there's an agency that doesn't deserve the financial support. Every one of them is really good here in town, and
they all need it,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, and so if you're giving it to an individual, you don't know where that money's going, and you know, it's not being spread around either. So you know, we'd like to help as many people as possible.
All right. Is there a website for Grace in Action?
Yes,
Something
yes.
that you can share with us?
If you just look at Grace in Action and just go to www.graceinAction, and if you put hyphens in between Grace in Action,
All right.
then you can get to us, and it'll
Awesome.
tell you different things that you can do.
That'll give
to
you
help.
A place where you can start learning about
Right.
volunteering opportunities,
Right.
financial,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
in-kind donation opportunities, and all those kinds of things.
And we always need lunch makers.
And lunch makers are a big need.
Yes.
See, that's the kind of stuff
Right.
everybody needs to know.
Right. So,
Lunch makers.
yeah.
And emergency kit items, I'm sure.
Right. Yes. And I mean, all of our food, we get a lot of donations, and a lot of people who are in the background. You know, they never maybe will have a direct contact with somebody, but they are consistent. We have somebody who makes birthday cupcakes once a month.
Oh, that's
you know,
awesome.
and we celebrate all the birthdays in the month. And somebody, you know, we have a legal aid person who comes in and gives legal aid advice, and you know, just all sorts of things.
So
we have
whatever-
a doctor that gives eyeglasses and exams.
Oh, that's really cool. So whatever your skill is,
Right.
there's a place
Right.
for you to
Right.
for you to practice that.
Yeah. We even have a laundry ministry. So people had dirty clothes, and they wanted them cleaned, and so one of the groups, the Seroptimists, gave us a grant. We were able to give out coupons for people to get clean clothing. So that was exciting because, you know, people throw things away after they've worn them 10 times. So to be able to wash them was a really nice thing.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. We're going to be building chicken coops coming up. So this is a project that's in the future. So
So if you know how to swing a hammer,
yes.
Then-
Yeah. Each
or
church is
tie
going
that
to
wire.
hopefully we're going to get each church to adopt a chicken coop,
Yeah.
and then have our homeless guests build it, sell it, and put that money into housing start.
Wonderful.
So, yeah,
Wonderful.
really
Well, it was so
excited.
great to talk to you,
Wonderful
Mary
to
Lou.
talk to you too.
And this has been In the Studio. I'm Tyler Shaffo. Until next time.